Okay, in the spirit of keeping things short and sweet, let's move right along to our first poet. David Barber is the author of The Spirit Level, Wonder Cabinet, and Secret History. He is the poetry editor of The Atlantic, where he has also worked as a staff editor and online literary editor. Welcome, David.
Am I now unmuted? I think so. Yes? Everyone hear me? Great. It's a great pleasure to be here. Thank you to Anna and Olivia and Matt and all the good folks at Northwestern University Press. I'm going to take a small liberty, I hope, and read a poem that's short and bittersweet. It is a poem from Secret History. The title is one word, and it's a real doozy. It's word from the indigenous language of Tierra del Fuego that is said to be, rumored to be, down to its last native speaker. It's a word also that's been, has the distinction of being recognized by the Guinness Book of World Records as the most succinct of the world's words. The most succinct of the world's words. It's no picnic to pronounce, but I've boned up on, again, YouTube, not TikTok, words too long for that. Here goes. Mama la Piñata Pie. One word, Mama la Piñata Pie. So what does it mean? The poem takes a stab at defining it as succinctly as possible in 14 lines. Mama la Piñata Pie. Meaning in Hagan, the wordless yet meaningful look between two people who want to begin something but are both reluctant to start. Meaning, in other words, that moment of silence that says so much more about why we're speechless than all that would be lost in translation. Meaning, you've said a mouthful, stranger. Maybe we should get to know each other better. Meaning, next time you're down in Tierra del Fuego, let's say we take a meeting, if you know what I mean. Meaning, maybe we could make beautiful music together by saying nothing. If only you, not me, would get things going. Meaning, easy for you to say, word maven. So why, oh why, don't you make the first move? Meaning, what in the world are we doing? Doing nothing when we could be speaking in tongues in the land of fire. Which doesn't mean that any of this has to make sense. No matter how momentous it may sound, no matter how much it may have meant when our eyes met, no matter how much more it would mean if I were to give you my word in my meandering way that one day we'll be finishing each other's sentences. Which might then mean that you and me weren't meant to be, unless in the meantime word gets around all the way back around Cape Horn, where it said there's now only one surviving native speaker left to tell us why we're hanging fire. Meaning, if you will, the world is full of words that are meaningless unless they say something unmistakable about us. Meaning, more or less, you can go to the ends of the earth and still be at a loss over what to say about what just passed between us. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Our next poet is Codjoe, who is the author of Blood in the Air, winner of the Drinking Gourd Chapbook Poetry Prize, and Bluest Nude, forthcoming in 2022. Codjoe is the recipient of a 2017 Rona Jaff Writers Award, a 2019 NEA Creative Writing Fellowship, and a 2021 to 2022 Jerome Hill Artist Fellowship. Welcome, Ama.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Glad to be with poets tonight. Thank you, Northwestern, for having us. I'm going to read two poems. Nasty Woman. Inside me, a nasty gal growls like the gravel racing beneath a motorcycle, louder than the engine churring inside. There's always been a bird inside me, Betty Davis said. And because I've learned to decipher one black bird in a mob of black birds, I know the bird inside her, inside me, is neither raven nor blackbird nor grackle. I can tell by the way it caws inside the nasty gal's lusty snarl. The bird inside her, inside me, is crow. Carrion rots further in crow's gizzard. Sometimes the dead animal is love. Sometimes I offer a part of myself, carcass on the believer's tongue. Yesterday I fed Crow 3 names written in blue ink on torn notebook paper. The day before, an idea of myself died. Crow devoured it greedily. The Betty inside me rasps and howls, wearing a zebra print leotard, straddling the rungs of my ribs and blowing into the ram-like horns of my uterus. Betty dines on what's alive. Electric guitar, gray suede shoes, lewd as an unchaste nude, vulgar as a seasick sailor steering a tempest-tossed ship, nasty as funk, funky as an armpit, gritty as grits, filthy as the back of your mama's neck, raw as sushi, raw as Eddie Murphy, pitifully nasty, nasty as graffiti in the men's locker room. Betty loves to hear the story of Artemis, the virgin goddess, who as punishment for ogling at her river-cleaned pubis, transformed Actaeon into a stag and watched his own pack of hounds tear him to smithereens. Betty can live off that story for weeks. That and chocolate ice cream. The Betty inside me licks her lips suggestively. She's got a foul mouth and glorious teeth and a beak as sharp as a sword. Inside me is a nasty gal, housed by a nastier woman. Poem after Betty Saar's The Liberation of Aunt Jemima. What if, Betty, instead of a rifle or hand grenade, I mean, what if after the loaded gun that takes 2 hands to fire, I laid down the splintered broom and the steel so cold it wets my cheek? What if I unclenched the valleys of my fist and laid down the wailing baby? Gonna burn the moon in a cast iron skillet. Gonna climb the men who, when they see my face, turn into stony mountains. Gonna get out of the kitchen. Gonna try on my nakedness like a silk kimono. Gonna find me a lover who eats nothing but pussy. Let the whites of my eyes roll, roll. Gonna clench my toes. Gonna purr beneath my own hand. Gonna take down my hair. Try on a crown of crow feathers. Gonna roam the wide aisles of the peach grove. Light dripping off branches like syrup, leaves brushing the fuzz on my arm. You dig? Gonna let the juice trickle down my chin, gonna smear the sun like war paint across my chest, gonna shimmy into a pair of royal blue bell bottoms, gonna trample the far out thunder clouds, heavy in their lightness, watch them slink away, Gonna grimace, gonna grin, gonna lay down my sword. Pick up the delicate eggs of my fist. Gonna jab the face that hovered over mine. It's easy to find the lips, surrounded as they are in minstrel black. Gonna bloody the head of every god, ghost, or swan who has torn into me, pried me open with its beak. Gonna catch my breath in a hunting trap. Gonna lean against the ropes. Gonna break the nose of mythology. Good night, John Boy. Gonna ice my hands in April's stream. Gonna scowl and scream and shepherd my hollering into a green pasture. Gonna mend my annihilations into a white picket fence. Gonna whip a tornado with my scarlet handkerchief. Spin myself dizzy as a purple lip drunkard. Gonna lay down by the riverside, sticky and braless in the golden sand. Ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Thanks.
Thank you, Hannah. Our next author is Nandi Comer. Nandi Comer is the author of Tapping Out and American Family, a Syndrome. She has been named a Kresge Artist Fellow, and her poems have appeared or are forthcoming in the Blue Shift Journal, Crab Orchard Review, Green Mountains Review, Pluck, Prairie Schooner, and Southern Indiana Review. Welcome, Nandi.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Northwestern, for gathering us all here. Some of you, it's been a long time since I've seen you, so it's really warms my heart to be reading with you all. I'm going to read two poems from Tapping Out. A lot of the poems are about wrestling, so I'm going to read one poem that's about lucha libre, and then another poem that is not about wrestling. The first poem is called La Base, and it's based off of the concept of a term that's called the base. And in the book, there's a definition: the base or the receiver of an aerial power move. After one's opponent has already jumped, la base must remain in place in order to accept the blow. Otherwise, la base risks injuries to their opponent and or oneself. La base. A few seconds until the end, and I'm hunched and breathless, an aching body, kneeling center ring. The arena is all sneers and whistles, while the other guy scales ropes. With each of his steps, the turnbuckles creaking warns me to untangle my legs, to get up and steady my frame. I know the only thing to do is wait. His arms will come down in an axe or maybe a suicide bomb. It doesn't matter the move. He will somersault all his weight onto me, and I will shape his descent. A flight must have a place to land, or two sore arms to catch and cradle him, another body to fall into. When he hurtles through the air and everything rushes past his mask, I am the hinge, his net. And then this next poem has a Spanish title, which it just translates for non-Spanish speakers. It just translates to, it's a quote from the former President Vicente Fox of Mexico, who said, they're going over and doing the jobs that not even the Blacks will do. The title is Están haciendo los trabajos que ni siquiera los negros quieren hacer. 1. Ay Dios, we are in the computer lab and I hear it. A voice purr from a mouth, a stain in the air. I hear it whine over our keyboards like a sad mosquito come too late in the season. Ay Dios. It is grading time and reteachers crowd in the school's only lab, the way teachers with grading must. Me tienes aquí trabajando. We all have a load. We all face our computers and pick up our students' labor. We check boxes and the room stays so quiet until, ay Dios, me tienen aquí trabajando como un negro. Her sigh and groan, I hear it. Me tienes aquí trabajando como un negro. Others hear it. Me tienes aquí trabajando. I don't have to look up to see who said it. I never have to look to see who's saying. Como un negro, I am always. Como un negro, the voice crawls to me. Como un negro trabajando. 2. Ay, Nandi, no seas así. Aquí en México no hay racismo porque no hay negros. 3. You have me working like a slave. You've got me working like a nigger. Me tienes trabajando como un negro. Never in my cotton picking years, you alligator bait, you fortune cookie, you Indian giver, how to let the tongue do its work down my leather skinned back. What offense was not meant is dealt, is taken. Dig into the weighty work, song, dirt, laundry, landscaping, widen a crater for all the sounds. Wetback, gypsy, coon, coolie, slack, limp words, pitch them down the center O of job, let the work fall in. Thank you.
Thank you, Nandi. Next, our next author is Gregory Fraser. Gregory Fraser is the author of Strange Pieta, Answering the Ruins, Designed for Flight, and Little Armageddon. Fraser is a professor at the University of West Georgia and serves as features editor of the Birmingham Poetry Review. Welcome, Gregory.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be reading with all of you. David, I'd like to thank you for writing a wonderful blurb for my last book. I'll read 3 poems. First one's called Business. A man hands me his business card and asks for mine. How should I know my business? The world is my business and the world is none of my business. These words are shadows of thoughts, shaped nothing like those thoughts. Am I a distortionist? My grief is the square root of my laughter that of my grief, perhaps a mathematician. Maybe there's life on the other side of death. Maybe there's life on this side of death. Shall I start a detective agency, specialize in missing persons? The man who is all business, who keeps himself on the short leash of a necktie, pumps my hand and invites me to dine. With its strict dress code, the restaurant keeps a sports jacket at the coat check. Whose life hasn't been that jacket, hung in shadow, furred with dust, waiting to be filled by another stranger? A man hands me his business card, asks for mine. How should I know my business? The world is my business and none of my business. In winter, wind scrapes up and down the walk, a blade across the sharpening stone. This, I think, is my business. Or blonde light, sauntering in spring, the whole city on its arm. Next one's called My Idea of Heaven, and there are a couple quotations from John Milton's Paradise Lost. You'll probably recognize them because they'll sound like they were written in the 17th rather than the 21st century. My idea of heaven is a cabin where I have moved my idea of a leather couch in front of my idea of a fireplace stacked with seasoned oak. From my idea of the tiny kitchen wafts the aroma of roasted lamb, spiced with my idea of sage and rosemary snipped from my idea of Eden. On my idea of a dining table breathes a vintage Chateauneuf de Pape, and beside me curls my idea of bliss with tresses discomposed and glowing cheek. Her eyes speak volumes of holy scripture, songs of songs, Kama Sutras, and hint that I am her idea of the goodliest man of men, soul partner and soul part of all these joys. The candles flit as we devour meat and new potatoes, cooked to my idea of perfection. Then we sprawl on the floor under quilts hand-stitched in cashmere. After, in my idea of flawless silence, my idea of smoke curls from my idea of the chimney into the starry night. all the way to another heaven, more sumptuous, more rapturous than this, which was never my idea, never mine at all. And this last one's called Hide and Seek, about my children when they were younger. My kids, humped under the bedspread, look like a meal inside a python. Sometimes I wish my kids were a meal inside a python. Fatherhood, I sometimes think, is a python that swallowed me whole. Then I remember my wife is the python. She constricted me 3 years till I agreed to kids. I cannot thank her enough, yet hardly thank her at all. It is frightening inside the python, dark and soundless and slick with digestion. It is beautiful inside the python, dark and silent and slick with time to think. I think parents must choose their testament, old or new, mercy or wrath. Some days I want to hide and seek forever inside the python, hide and seek more knowledge. Already I know a hole in the heart is not a hole in a sock, amenable to darning. I know python stems from pytho, another name for Delphi. I'm not saying life without kids is life without pythons. I'm saying I've started to understand my parents. I'm saying I now know my mother's life was more than a wooden spoon and a fistful of salt. I'm saying my father's mind was more than a tripped grenade. I'm saying 8, 9, 10, ready or not, here I come. Thank you.
Thank you, Gregory. Ellen Hagen is the author of Blooming Fiascos, Hemisphere, Crowned, Watch Us Rise, a YA collaboration with Renee Watson, and Reckless, Glorious Girl, a middle grade novel in verse. Hagen is the director of the poetry and theatre departments at the Dreamyard Project and directs their international poetry exchange program with Japan, South Korea, and the Philippines. Welcome, Ellen.
Thank you so much. It is a joy to be here sharing space with you all and part of Northwestern University Press. I'll be reading from Blooming Fiascos. I had it here, I was gonna hold it up. It feels special to have it in hand. I'll read a couple poems about my children and a couple that are not. To 3:47 a.m. when your youngest throws up in her bed. By God, you think, and plunge your hand towards her sheets while your husband whispers, why would you touch it? Footsie, pajama-bodied shiver, she plunges her all at you. You hold the vomit towards God, the capital one this time, and curse fuck and loud, God damn it. And your oldest peeks awake, says, can we wake now? How's about a movie? How's about we hold here on the rug, cuddle close, because it's 3:52 a.m. and the cold's keeping outside and the hot water's running and every need of every want keeps on getting met, my God. Thank the bodies and the way they dispel. Thank the expanding of each lung and how we all sometimes heave towards daylight. Thank daylight too, and electricity and the astounding capacity of luck that leaves you weeping into morning. Gates open. When an infant emerges womb to world, soft and susceptible, their gums enter packed to the gills. Molars and molars, canines and lateral and central incisors, they arrive primed to rip and gnaw, their mouths full for the blooming. Enamel encapsulating, calcium and phosphate, pulp and dentin, cementum and membrane, all blood supply and nerve, tissue alight and alive inside their small cavernous maws. So when my youngest loses her first tooth, pulls it up, a bouquet of blood floods her lips, a crooked red smile. How adult she suddenly is, flush and gaping, an atrium inside of her. I feel teenaged, she says, my own jaw aching, a tender trench inside of me, as I watch her shed and slip from one whole body into another. This next poem is for anyone who made it through middle school. Congratulations, because this is things that we heard in middle school. On hearing in middle school that a pussy smells like fish. How I wish I'd said yes. I'm a saline marinade, we all are. My pussy is an avalanche of salt. Tastes all mermaid-like and alkaline, brine flavored. I'm savory sodium chloride, oceanic to the tongue, relish the zest of my fresh, brackish flesh. I'm all surf water's savory smack. I can sink you with my sapidity, hook and net, bait you with my relished tang. My composition is compulsory, a soluble stimulus that your 7th grade self can't contain. You think you're so cute. With what you imagine to be slant, put down punishment, how you lopped our sexuality down with one slight sneering snub, suppression in the form of snide, how even then I imagined it compliment. Knowing I'd find someone to long for my pungent delectability, went to sleep secure that either way, I loved the savorous, scrumptious sea that lived inside of me. And the last poem is for my mema, who I feel, I keep reading these poems next to each other. They don't quite fit, but they totally fit. This is for Miriam Dawson Hagen, who was my mema, is my mema. You skillet sizzler woman, grease-eyed pop and hot, you stove chanter, apron wearer, cornbread slayer, knife wielder, waist shaker, you witchy kitchen woman of coven and craft, you palm swatter, shift slinger, corn boiler, lay stayer, crossword doer, milk drinker, countrified, sweet spot haver, arms plenty, hand ringer. You stuffing wizard, veggie chopper, spin winner, potato skinner, lard user, slim sister, oven runner. You spatula wielder, casserole baker, butter to his bread, you tall tale teller, turkey dresser, sous chef shit talker. You exalted sweet tea mixer, fried egg wonder, majestic mama to 9 bodies, you grand grander, show stunner. All the time, I miss you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen. Thank you. Our next poet is Darrel Alejandro Holnes, who is the author of Migrant Psalms, the winner of the Drinking Gourd Chapbook Poetry Prize, as well as Stepmotherland, winner of the Andres Montoya Poetry Prize. He's an assistant professor of English at Medgar Evers College and a faculty member of the Gallatin School of Individualized Study at New York University. Welcome, Daryl.
Thank you, Matthew, and thank you to all of the readers tonight and to Northwestern University Press. And shout out to Professor Jaji, whose last name I hope I'm pronouncing correctly, and blurbed my chapbook that I'll be reading from tonight. So I'm super excited to be here. The first poem is called A Mending Wall, and it is a response to Robert Frost's poem, Mending Wall. A mending wall. If crucified means one has died on the cross, then what is the word in English for dying at the crossing between countries? What word describes when a brown woman's dreams of being something like a white man are killed at the intersection between his dreamt up borders and his dream come true, border patrol? White man like dead men printed or minted on money, more valuable than the pesos in her purse. White man like gods on horseback, come to conquer their India after reading a mistaken map. White man like the grace of misinterpreted omens turned into a chance for vicious attack. White man like buying but outlawing cocaine to catch the brown man in the crossfire of its trade. White man like picket fences in award-winning films about the privilege of being so over privileged that he yearns for something real. Something there is that loves a wall, that builds a boundary, that calls the structure love of country. Something there is that kills those who trespass. Something there is that buries bodies at a border as foundation stones for yet another wall. but something there is that doesn't love fathers saying, good fences make good neighbors. Something doesn't love a man carving up a continent and its people to make a new world in the image of old words like the name of God, instead of new words like the name of one's own desires. To divide life into here and after by crossing an ocean as if it were the pearly gates. Oh, America. If anywhere there are limits, are beginnings and ends, then heaven has to be a nothing, loving a something, loving its everything. Then life, country, and their borders ain't nothing but a thing. This next poem is called OTM, which is a legal term for other than Mexican. And it is a term that was invented in order to refer to the surge of Central American migrants that were coming to the US. And as someone from Central America, I'm fascinated by this term and think a lot about the differences and similarities between Mexicans and folks from Panama, where I'm from, or from throughout Central America. And I started to look at it on a level of language, thinking about all the sorts of Spanishes that are spoken, not only throughout Latin America, but also in the US. And I wrote this poem, OTM, or other than Mexican. Other than que pedo, we que sopa. Other than ta bueno, we ofi. Other than cosa, we vaina. Other than vato, we pelao. Other than amiguín, we friend. Other than coyote, we ride la bestia. Other than mande, we que cosa? Other than no mames, we chucha. Other than culero, we hijo de puta. Other than cálmate, güey, we tranquilo, pana. Other than me vales madre, we me vales verga. Other than peda, we party. Other than chela, we pinta. Other than crudo, we fuck up. Other than el arte de engañar, we juega vivo. Other than pinta, we sopre. Other than llevarse el demonio, we cabrea. Other than huir, we chifiar. Other than chava, chillal. Other than bonita, chipriti. Other than firmeina, chipai. Other than casita, we chanti. Other than pachanga, we rumba. Other than panzana, we preñada. Other than padre, we viejo. Other than nene, we chichi. Other than niños, they children. Other than fresh off the boat, they gringos. Other than hablar, they speak. Other than vivir, they be. Other than nosotros, they, me. Thank you.
Thank you, Daryl. Our next reader is Mike Puican, who is the author of Central Air. He has published poems in Poetry, Bloomsbury Review, Crab Orchard Review, and New England Review, amongst others. Welcome, Mike.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks to Northwestern, and thanks to the other poets. This has been a terrific reading. I'm really happy to be part of it. I'm going to read two poems. This is a new one for me. It's called Democracy Has Lifted Its Voice. It comes with an epigraph by James Bovard. Democracy must be something more than two wolves and a sheep voting on what to have for dinner. Our country is a real beacon of democracy, and that's a good thing, but we're not so good at taking care of those that are not part of the majority. Democracy has lifted its voice and boarded its windows. Democracy has entered the room. All rise. Democracy is a bag of M&Ms with no blue ones. Democracy stands outside your window singing sweet songs of love. Democracy has chops. It dances at bars, has too many Manhattans, tells you it loves you, tails you through department stores and through the iron gates of its asylums. Democracy, your assembly halls are filled with tears. Chamber of dicks. Holy are the poor, but let's table that for another meeting. Democracy needs to defend itself against other democracies. Mexican democracies, Philippine democracies, Beninin and Botswanian democracies. Not to mention those pesky local democracies with stockpiles of semi-automatic weapons and homemade baked goods. Democracy is outside your door blowing leaves off your lawn. So tell me, how do we settle this argument? I'm going to read one poem from my book, Central Air. Thank you, Northwestern, and especially thank you to Parnisha Jones, my editor. She went above and beyond what an editor would do to make this a book I'm immensely proud of. She's not an editor anymore. I think she's in charge of the universe or something. Anyway, this is called Man Digging a Sidewalk. Morning at a busy intersection, under a large elm, a young man with thick, short arms digs up a sidewalk. He works steadily, not fast, at his own pace. I watch him and the elm's leaves, which have turned yellow, edged with brown. A teenager walks past the young man and over the mounds of dirt. She leads her dog, a chihuahua, that is dressed as a honeybee. The morning's light pours over the girl and her dog. As they climb another mound of dirt, the dog turns to me and says, "Don't fuck with me. I'm capable of anything. I am boundless." These are the early days of autumn. The mind soars. Let our bodies keep watch over the work. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Our final poet this evening is Tsutsi Ella Jaji. Tsutsi Ella Jaji is the author of Beating the Grades, awarded honorable mention for the 2015 Silliman Prize, Carnival, and Mother Tongues. She is an associate professor of English at Duke University. Welcome, Tsutsi.
Thank you all so much to Northwestern for hosting us all, to the other poets. It's been incredible. It made me forget how wonderful it is to hear poetry out loud. So I'm so glad to be reading with all of you. I am going to start with a poem called, or a set of poems called Old News, because I peeked at the participants and I saw that a number of my countrymen and women from Zimbabwe are listening. This poem talks about things that to Zimbabweans probably are, I hope, a little bit satirical about the news. But the thing about writing about the news is that it's not news for long. And this is very much local news. So I figured, if poetry reading, you can explain a little bit of why you write what you write. This first one is about a kind of democracy movement called This Flag. People wrap themselves up in flags. The second one was about a sort of cooperative scheme to raise quails, a kind of micro business type of thing. The third one is about a group of politicians who were known under the sort of umbrella of Gamma Talks, or G40. Gamma Talks happens to be a insecticide. And then finally, we have a tradition of long-serving ministers of youth, etc., as you will see. So anyways, first one, this flag, hashtag this flag. Today, we are flying colors, black, red, white, green, yellow's caution to the wind. 2. Quails. If this were the actual bread of heaven, would spaza shops be hawking it? If a rooster lays a pangolin's egg, drop it and see if rubber cracks. In the garden of Gamatox, what are organochlorine pesticides? What do they look like? Where do they come from? Where can they be found? Why are OCPs harmful? What happens if they are not used as directed? Do I have any OCPs on my property? 4. The Fountain of Youth. When you are 61 years young, 40 is the new 21. I'm going to read the poem that is sort of the title poem of this collection, Mother Tongues, in honor of the woman it begins with, my mom. Mother Tongue. Mother of 2, mixed and matched Ohio blonde, brings her brown babies, born to a brand new nation, home alone. Cash strapped, father of 2 stays behind, husbanding their shared hearth. She tames the air-bound toddler on an elastic leash. In the airport, an unknown wasp-waist girly woman squawks in alarm, her blessedly untested parental principles. When boy won't budge, his corduroy seat sails across the waxed floors, while sister does dragging duty, a trail of gleam in their wake. That sister's bush-born vernacular follows this proven logic. With mother, speak mommy's talk. Otherwise, be at home in words. Fatherless for a spell, her tale of ups and downs and pressure and vomit in a paper bag wells up at the sight of the first matching man. Black is beautiful, powered by pride, wounded with each stop, blunted by each frisk. Black is the color of our first true love, Baba, warm heart beating to calm colic, nightmares, and memories flicker of something history will call Chimurenga. The language of home spills off daughter's tongue, drowning this unknown umber man whose skin is a flag of peace. His face laughs, bewilders, then unsettles in dread. White woman panic will bring only trouble. He harbors no desire for the body of this bronze girl child, no bride, no candy, no white van out back. Suddenly, he sees they look like family. Yet he can cite no ocean to wash them apart. Mother knows best. So sorry. Mother knows best. She clasps small brown hand in hers and smooths golden head of spiral hair with a free hand. She spells out a new code. Everyone here speaks only mother's tongue. Now sister does too. End of story. I'm going to close with a poem that I wrote for a German linguist who gave a talk about semantics and all sorts of things, and used Langston Hughes as her case study. Auxiliary for Angelika Kratzer, linguist. While it is not absolutely impossible, it is nevertheless quite unlikely that nature could construct an angel from an extant phylogeny. The back of a mammal has no pre-existing structures that can be stretched or shrunk, folded or bent into a wing. These, then, are the concerns of the semanticists and their rival siblings, the syntacticians. They worry about how to swan song a boat. More precisely, they start with a boat. Take a boat in Boston, for example. Say something like swan boat, but they do not suppose we all know what that is. Is it a swan boat or a swan boat? They might quibble. Then they really get going. They suggest a swan boat book, and we twitter with erudite delight. They keep a straight face. Well then, what about a swan boat book award? And our snobbery is further excited. Why, what would be the award ceremony? What would we wear? Would we perhaps break with our own traditions and wear a dress? Would we wear a pantsuit? But who besides a swan boat book awardee wears a pantsuit these days? The striding syntactician has a twinkle in her eye. Her angelic powers may be diminutive, but her impishness is palpable, and for reasons known only to her, she honors each of our traditions. Invoking Langston, she wins us over completely. This then is our best effort at last, our opening closer, a cooperative interaction, we hope, in the spirit of such. We present our sister semanticist, or was she a syntactician, with this salute, a swan song after all. We hope it suits. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Tsitsi. Wow, what a privilege it is to hear poets read their own work. That wraps up our short and sweet evening. Thank you to all of our wonderful poets for sharing their work this evening. Before you go, please do take a moment to check the chat along the bottom here just one more time, and follow the links there if you'd like to purchase our poets' work on the Northwestern University Press website. Okay, thank you all so much for joining us this evening, and take care.